Hi everybody, and welcome back to Connections and Conversation. So this is the series of episodes that I'm recording here on YouTube with more wonderful guests, but this time we're diving a bit deeper. So we've heard fabulous stories in the past of people's reconnection moments, but now I've got some wonderful guests coming on, and we're talking about purpose, we're talking about finding yourself, we're talking about how things can help you get to that truer you. And today I'm joined by the lovely Morton, and we are going to be diving into all about yoga, but not just the what is yoga, but really about how yoga can help you in that search and find that peace within you. Before I go any further, Claire, thank you so much for joining us, and tell everyone a bit about yourself.
Hi, and thanks for having me, Ali. I really appreciate it. I love doing things like this. I love having these chats. So yeah, my name is Claire Morton, as you know. I've been in the world of personal development and training for over 20 years. So my corporate background was in HR and L&D. And what fascinated me in that time, and even just as a person, is I absolutely love helping people. I love serving people, and I love it when I'm coaching people and I see them have the realization that they can change, or when they find their purpose, or when they know what they're here for. So I set up my own business 4 years ago, L&D, which was a business to go into corporates and organizations to deliver training on the likes of leadership, coaching, management, mindset. And all my stuff is very much around behavioral stuff and what you tell yourself, and around emotional intelligence. And then in this time, I started coaching a lot more people, and obviously with what happened in back in February, March, work, face-to-face work disappeared. And I also am a Reiki healer as well, so I used to have people coming to me so I could do that. So loads of things changed, but in the background, I'd always wanted to set up an online group coaching to help men, because I've been coaching a lot of men last year. So I set up a project called the Purpose Pushers Project, which is to help men basically sort the heads out, get into the heart and take the mask off. And that's where I am at the moment. And a lot of my teachings include stuff from NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, and all the leadership development that I do. But the big thing, underlying thing, is the yoga and what yoga is, and yoga philosophy. I do a lot of teaching around that, because a lot of people think it's about going to a class and being flexible. And it's like people go, don't do yoga, no, I'm not flexible enough.
Yeah, because I mean, I love yoga. Yoga's a big part of my own personal kind of keeping sane. And I've done lots of yoga over the years, and I think there's been different images, hasn't there, of yoga, but we do have a bit of an image where you think that you've got to be very lithe, and you're gonna, and it's all about being able to stand on your head, and and being really bendy, really flexible. And actually, there's so much more to it, isn't there? But that's kind of the bit that people can feel quite intimidating if that's not your body shape, if you're slightly older, lots of different reasons. So what's your philosophy about yoga?
Yeah, okay. So I was introduced to yoga 7 years ago, when when you discover yoga, you go, why didn't I do this earlier? Because it's so great. I love it. And it was a yoga class. It was a hot yoga class. And I was going through a bit of a traumatic time at the time, and a friend said to me, come to yoga. So I went along, hot yoga. It was probably one of the hardest classes that you could do. And I come out and I was like, oh my God. But I couldn't stop crying. It was like this, I was like, why am I going to yoga? It makes me cry. And she said to me, because you're holding it in, you need to let this out. So that's where I discovered it. And then I decided a couple of years ago that I wanted to be a yoga teacher. So I ended up doing my yoga teacher training last year. And the amount of stuff that you learn as a yoga teacher is I mean, it's, as I say, it's not just about going to a class, and it's not just about the asanas, which are the postures. It's tens of thousands of years old. It's also not a religion, because I think people think it's related to religions, but it's not. It's just a way of life. And the main things, there's 8 limbs to yoga. and the postures is just one limb, it's just one part. There's loads of others. So the main focus that I have is educating people on, yeah, it's great to do the postures because there's so, and obviously you can go from beginners level, like level 0, then into advanced. So I get people starting that have never done it before at level 0, so they're eased into it, and then they feel comfortable, and then they're quite surprised at how they feel afterwards, because it's all about creating space in the body with the stretches and the postures. But then explaining to people that meditation is yoga, breath work, pranayama, breath control, that is yoga. So you don't have to be on your head or flexible enough. If you are sitting and practicing meditation and focusing on one thing or breathing, that is part of meditation, of yoga. So I love educating people on that. And in lockdown, I ended up I thought, right, okay, how am I going to keep up with my practice? I'll do some online Zoom sessions. So I created a Facebook group and advertised on there. And then I did every Monday, every Wednesday in the morning, beginners yoga. And it was great because you had people who were isolating, and husbands and wives who were joining in to do it together. So it was something that they actually spent time together doing, and mothers and sons and stuff like that. And they were like, I didn't realise how lovely it can be and how flexible that they became over that time of lockdown. So it's encouraged them to go out and do more.
Yeah, and I think that you've introduced people there to yoga, that because they could do that in their own homes, they might not have gone out and sought a class. Like, you know, I'm really interested in, you know, I go to my yoga class and there's always 1 or 2 men, and I know there's lots of men who do yoga, but it's generally women who go to the classes that I've been to. And so do you think you've attracted people that would previously have been a little bit like, oh, that's not for me?
Yeah, that was the hope, that was the point in it. It's that whole, because the trainer in me, because that's my bread and butter, being a trainer. I want to teach people, to let them know what yoga is so that they can get into it, because it's one of those things that, as I say, it's been around for thousands of years. The way that the world is at the moment, and people suffering with mental health, physical health, emotional health, this is something, if you practice on a regular basis, you will let go of stuff, you will release stuff, you will create more space in the body, you will connect with the inner self. And it also helps with the brain. It helps to rewire the brain. And this is probably what I wanted to talk to you about, is around, there's a lot of research out there now and proof to show you through brain scans what meditation practice does to our brains, because it can rewire. Our brains are plastic, and people's lives change through the practice of yoga, and they connect themselves, they love themselves, and they don't try to be someone that they don't want to be anymore, because there's a lot of people playing up to be something for other people, and it's
I love
back.
I'm really, like you, I'm really passionate about this kind of science and spirituality, as I call it. So in my field, you know, psychotherapies had a very kind of, I think, a very dry kind of opinion about it, or people are a little bit scared of it. But actually now we're doing a lot of compassion led, and we're bringing lots of meditation and mindfulness into that. And again, there was this kind of feeling from some of the old school that this was all a bit like new wave, and actually there's just so much research now that's saying that, you know, I call it science and spirituality just because it explains the two different things, but we're not talking about religion here, we're not talking about faith, we're talking about using techniques that are allowing you to gain access to yourself, but we're actually showing scientifically that they're having this amazing impact on what's actually going on. So you're getting the psychological and the physiological effects, and this is what I'm really passionate about, getting the message out on. I love the fact that you've got yoga, which was previously seen as either a religion or an exercise, and now the whole meditation piece is a lot more acceptable. People understand that, and in the therapy room it's acceptable now, you know, to be a therapist that brings other things in, and it's not about sitting there talking, and there's lots of other techniques we can use. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing, and this is the passion that I've got. So, and like you, meeting people like you who have got that same message to say there's so much more that we can do than just talking therapies. And it's the main thing for me is that we are so busy doing things, we need to just sit with ourselves. And some people are scared to do that because they're scared of what their mind comes up with. So I just go into basics and say, just, really teach them about observe your thoughts. Just watch your thoughts, observe them, you're not your thoughts. And then see what thoughts come up and what emotions does that trigger. And in that time, you get people crying and you get people laughing, you get people having big insightful moments, and that's part of it. And the crying, it's a funny thing, because when I'm with clients or I'm teaching a class and on some of my coaching programs, if we do some guided meditation and people are like, oh, I've got to stop crying, it's like, no, why do you have to stop crying? You wouldn't stop laughter from coming out, so why would you stop tears? It's an emotion.
They say, oh,
yeah.
And they say, I never cry. And there's all these kind of defenses that come out, and this is why it's coming out.
Yeah, because it needs to come out, and it's been suppressed for years, and let it come out. And I'm coaching, I've got a group of men that I'm coaching right now, and we're in week 5, and we do include meditation, and I've educated them on what meditation is. It's not all spiritual woo-woo stuff. I've showed them the science behind it and what it can do for the brain and how we can be more creative. And they really, last night when I was with them, there was such a connection between them all. They don't know each other, but it's like they've known each other for years, because we've talked about stuff and we've tested stuff out that you normally wouldn't do on a normal day-to-day basis. But that's what I want to encourage. It's like, just tell people, give people the belief in meditation can really help, and yoga and movement of the body really helps, and it lets you release stuff. It gets you to connect to other people. It gets you out of that narrow-minded focus of always focusing on just one thing or the negative stuff. It gets you to open up to choices and new opportunities, and you can start telling yourself that you are enough, you are worth being here, and you need to use your tools, your gifts, your techniques to get out into the world, because people need you. Everyone is here for a reason, aren't they?
Totally. That's such a strong message. There's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why everyone's here. And in my last interview with Sharmila, we had a wonderful talk about purpose. But how people are obsessed with finding their purpose, whereas if we can just sit and we can just be, sometimes you realize that you're already doing your purpose, that your purpose is right under your nose, or that what you're doing already is good enough, it's worthy enough. We don't all have to be on, we don't all have to be leading a campaign to save the world, and it's great that people are doing that, but everybody's got a role to play. I'm really interested with the work that you do with men, because we hear, on the one hand, we hear lots of groups that are for women, and women's development. But we hear a lot in the news, and I obviously hear a lot about the fact that one of our biggest areas of concerns is men's mental health and the suicide rates of men, which are, increasing and continue to increase at a younger age, which is really worrying. So how has that been responded to in how have men, you've obviously got men coming to you, but has that been easy? Have they been open to it?
Yeah, it's been very different, and that was one of my things, was that I noticed, because I do coach men and women, and I used to work with children as well, but I found that men opened up to me quite quickly within the first session, and once they'd got stuff out, the relief and so you're not going to shout at me or judge me, and I'm like, no, because I'm a coach and I'm here to listen to you and help you. And it's like, I couldn't tell me mates what I've just said to you. I couldn't tell a man coach what I've just told you. I could, and it's like, okay, that's fine. So once we get and it's usually around self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, a lot of the time. But once they get that out, we can move on with the rest of the stuff that they want to do. What do you want from life? Where do you want to go? So we really get into goals and dreams and purpose and identity, because a lot of men are walking around with masks on, and they're still, like everyone, we're still little 5-year-old kids inside these bodies. And I just found on reflection of 2019, I'd worked with more men than women. And I felt there's a lot of women coaches out there for women, which is amazing. But there's not many women coaches out there for men. So I thought, well, let's go out and offer that. And then at least men can say, well, I could go and see Claire or another woman, if any, because there are a couple of other women doing it. Or they can go and see a man, but it just gives them that choice. So I decided to do group coaching because it's about creating that safe space for them. So I do, for example, I'll do a Tuesday evening is all about training. So I'll do some stuff around neuroscience in the brain, or we do some stuff on emotional intelligence and some NLP stuff. And then on Thursday, it's just purely group coaching where they can talk and we can listen. I coach, but the others are listening. The others can chip in, and they've got to, it's that once one of them opens up, the group opens up. And it's been quite, I don't mean to sound negative, it's been quite draining, as in draining energy from me, because they're not as vocal as women. But I've persevered with it because it's that purpose, it's in the heart to say, you're there, just release, come on. And last night was big, was massive. It was lovely to see these men coming together to support a couple of others in the group who were going through their why. And that was it. I was like, that's it. That's my job done. Now these guys, you go out into the world and you do this with other guys. You don't have to come on a coaching program to do it, but they'll be done and they'll be open to other men and women, because obviously we want to co-create with them and the world, that they'll go and inspire other men to do what they've just done.
So I think that was amazing. And Claire, we could talk for ages. So I have to bring the episode to a close, and there's so much more we could talk about. If there's a final message to people who are listening that you want to get over, what would that be, Claire?
Yeah, there's a quote that I always use, and I've put it in my book. It's an anonymous quote. I don't know who it belongs to, but it's beautiful. And it's, between yesterday's mistakes and tomorrow's hope, there's a fantastic opportunity called today. So it's the whole thing around, we get depressed about the past, we worry about the future, but right here, right now, we're okay, and that's all we've got. So people to get taken away from that present moment. So just through meditation, through yoga practice, we can be more present, and then we can just be.
And you mentioned a book, so feel free, let's give it a plug, the book here.
Oh, yeah, it's a collaborated book. Obviously, I've got it here, The Successful Mind. So my chapter is in there all around science, neuroscience and yoga, because I wanted to educate people on what it is so that they go and have a go, and they'll find when they practice how much it will help them.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Claire. If you want to get in touch with Claire or find out more, you'll see underneath this episode all the links that you need, and details, of course, of the wonderful book that Claire's been part of, and where you can actually gain access to her work. We hope that you have enjoyed this new episode of In Connection and Conversation. We'd love you to subscribe and like and share. The more that we do that, the more that we can attract greater guests to come and talk to us and spread the word about what we're really passionate about. And if you think that you have something that's a really good topic to bring to the screen, then why not drop me a note as well, and let's get interested and get connected, because that's what I am all about. Thank you once again, Claire, for being with us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Love and light. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.